The old wooden barn was busy that morning. People from nearby towns gathered inside for the weekly animal auction. Sunlight came through the gaps in the roof and fell on horses, goats, and dogs waiting in small pens. The air smelled of hay, soil, and warm breath. Men talked in loud voices while women stood with baskets on their arms. Children pointed at animals they liked and asked questions without stopping. At the far corner stood a thin brown dog with tired eyes. Her coat was rough, and her ribs showed under her skin. She kept her head low and did not bark. Every time someone walked near her pen, she stepped back and pressed herself against the wooden boards as if trying to disappear. The worker in charge of her had tried many times to bring her forward, but the dog always shook with fear. People were not cruel to her. They simply did not see her as important. When buyers came in, they looked at strong dogs with shiny coats or puppies that jumped around with bright eyes. They wanted animals that looked proud and healthy. The brown dog did not look like that. She looked tired, lonely, and forgotten. The auction man cleared his throat and announced the next animal. No one listened at first because a large horse had just been sold, and people were still talking about the price. When the brown dog was led to the front, she crouched close to the ground. Her tail stayed still. A small scar on her ear showed she had lived a rough life. The auction man sighed and told the crowd she had been rejected more than once. He said he hoped someone would give her a chance, but his voice did not sound very hopeful. In the back of the barn stood a veteran named Aaron. He was quiet and calm, unlike the noise around him. His left leg had been injured years ago, and he used a cane to walk. He did not enjoy crowded places, but something had pushed him to come that morning. He could not explain why, but the moment he entered the barn, he felt he was searching for something. When Aaron looked at the brown dog, something in his chest tightened. Her eyes were full of fear, yet he also saw something else in them. He saw a spark of hope, hidden deep but still alive. The dog kept glancing at the people and then lowering her head again. She did not expect kindness, but part of her still wished for it. The auction man called out the first price. No one raised a hand. He lowered the amount. Still, no one moved. People whispered to each other. Some said the dog looked too weak. Others said she would require too much care. A few simply turned away as if she did not exist. Aaron stepped forward slowly. His cane touched the wooden floor with a soft tap. The brown dog lifted her head. Her eyes met his for a brief moment. It was a small moment, but powerful enough to stir something inside Aaron. He raised his hand. The barn fell silent. The auction man stopped speaking and looked at him with surprise. Aaron rarely came to auctions, and when he did, he never bought anything. The man asked if Aaron was sure. Aaron nodded once. The hammer struck, ending the auction for the brown dog. In that instant, she belonged to Aaron. People stared as Aaron walked toward her pen. Some whispered that he had wasted his money. Others simply shrugged. They did not understand why a man who lived alone and walked with difficulty would choose a weak dog. Aaron did not care what they thought. His attention was fully on the dog. When he reached her, he did not reach out right away. He crouched slowly and sat on the ground, lowering himself to her level. He spoke in a soft voice, hoping she would not feel threatened. The dog trembled, unsure what he planned to do. For a moment she hesitated, but then she sniffed the air. She smelled no anger, no tension, no threat. She moved a little closer. Aaron held out his hand, palm open. The dog leaned forward and touched her nose to his fingers. The moment was gentle, almost fragile. Aaron could feel her fear, but he also felt her desire to trust again. He whispered that she was safe now. She tilted her head and placed it carefully on his palm. Her body relaxed slightly. People nearby fell silent. Even the children who had been running around stopped to watch. Everyone could see the bond forming right before their eyes. It was not loud or dramatic. It was soft and quiet, but stronger than anything spoken. Aaron stood slowly, holding the leash loosely so she would not feel trapped. The dog followed him with hesitant steps. She did not know what kind of life waited for her outside the barn, but she sensed that this man was different. His steps were slow, his voice was calm, and his eyes held no threat. She walked beside him, still unsure, yet ready to try. Outside the barn, the air was fresh. The sun warmed the dog's back. She stopped and looked around. There were no loud voices, no crowded walls, no hands reaching at her, only open space and the quiet figure of Aaron. Aaron spoke to her again, telling her she was going home. The dog did not understand the words, but she understood the kindness. She wagged her tail once, a small and uncertain movement, but it was the first sign of hope she had shown all day. They walked to Aaron's old truck. He opened the side door gently and waited. The dog hesitated, then climbed inside. She curled into the seat and watched as Aaron started the engine. Her eyes were still tired, but now they were watching him with cautious interest as the truck moved down the road. The dog rested her head on the seat. She listened to the hum of the engine and the steady rhythm of Aaron's breathing. The sound made her feel calm. The countryside passed by in soft colors. Aaron drove slowly, wanting her to feel safe. Every few minutes he glanced at her and spoke in a warm tone. The dog did not have a name yet. Aaron knew he would choose one later, when she was ready. For now, all she needed was gentleness and time. When they reached his home, a small house near a quiet forest, Aaron opened the truck door and helped her down. She looked at the trees, the yard, and the small porch. She sniffed the air and took a few careful steps. Then she looked back at Aaron. Aaron smiled and said she was welcome. The dog walked inside with slow steps, feeling the warmth of the house. It smelled like wood, clean blankets, and fresh tea. It was peaceful and calm. Aaron closed the door softly behind her. He watched her explore the room. She did not hide in corners. She did not tremble. She moved with quiet curiosity for the first time in a very long time. The brown dog felt the beginning of safety. And for the first time in years, Aaron felt the beginning of companionship. Something new had started for both of them. Aaron opened the door to his small house and stepped aside so the brown dog could enter first. She walked slowly, her steps cautious as she explored the new space. Her ears moved back and forth as she listened to the quiet room. Aaron kept a small lamp near the window, and its warm glow made the house feel safe and peaceful. The dog sniffed the wooden floor, the sofa, and the rug near the fireplace. Every smell was new to her. She did not hurry. She simply took her time, trying to understand where she was. Aaron watched her from a few steps away. He did not want to interrupt her exploration. He wanted her to feel free. After a while, she stopped near the fireplace. She curled her body and lay down. It was the first sign that she felt some comfort in the house. Aaron sat in a chair beside her and spoke to her in a calm tone. He told her she was welcome here. His voice was low and gentle, and the dog lifted her head to listen. Aaron opened a cupboard and took out a metal bowl. He filled it with fresh water and placed it near her. The dog sniffed it and then drank slowly. She had been thirsty. Aaron then prepared a small bowl of soft food, placing it not too close so she would not feel pressured. She walked to it, smelled the food, and then began eating. Aaron smiled. He sat back and let her finish. When she was done, she looked at him with soft eyes. It was not full trust yet, but it was a beginning. The next morning, sunlight came through the window and warmed the floor. Aaron woke early and walked to the kitchen with his cane. The dog stood near him, watching every move. She was unsure if she should follow him, but she did anyway. Aaron opened the back door to let the fresh morning air in. Birds sang from the trees, and the smell of pine came inside the house. Aaron stepped outside and called to the dog. She came out slowly. The ground felt cool under her paws. She looked around at the trees, the grass, and the small wooden shed near the back fence. It was peaceful. There were no loud voices or sudden movements, only quiet wind and warm sunlight. Aaron walked a short distance into the yard. His leg hurt when he moved too quickly, so he always took slow steps. The dog noticed his slow pace and walked beside him. She matched her steps with his as if she understood his limits. When Aaron bent down to check a small plant, the dog sat next to him and waited. For the first time in many months, Aaron felt a sense of purpose. He had lived alone for a long time. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and silence filled his house. He often felt that life had become a long road with no direction. But now, the presence of the brown dog changed something inside him. His days felt warmer. His house felt alive. After the walk, they returned inside. Aaron decided it was time to give her a name. He sat in his chair and looked at her thoughtful eyes. She sat by the wall, her tail resting on the floor. He whispered the name Myra. It was simple and soft. The dog lifted her ears when he said it. The name seemed to fit her. Aaron repeated it again. Myra blinked slowly as if accepting it. From that moment, the thin brown dog was no longer just a stray that no one wanted. She was Myra. Over the next few days, Aaron and Myra built a gentle routine. Aaron would cook breakfast in the morning while Myra waited patiently near the table. She no longer hid near the door. Instead, she sat close to him and watched him move around the kitchen. When Aaron placed her food bowl down, she wagged her tail with quiet happiness. During afternoons, Aaron sat on the porch with a cup of tea and listened to the wind passing through the trees. Myra lay beside him, her head resting on her paws. Sometimes she lifted her head to watch a bird fly across the sky. Sometimes she simply closed her eyes and rested. Aaron felt calm in those moments. The world outside might be loud and busy, but here, everything was peaceful. One afternoon, a storm began to form. Gray clouds rolled across the sky, and the wind became stronger. Aaron looked up and knew rain was coming. He stepped onto the porch and called for Myra. She followed him inside, but her body began to tremble. When the thunder first sounded, she froze. Her legs stiffened, and her breathing quickened. Aaron understood. Myra had lived a difficult life before. Loud sounds scared her. Harsh voices frightened her. Thunder reminded her of fear. Aaron knelt beside her and placed his hand gently on her back. He spoke softly and told her she was safe. Myra leaned against him and trembled again when another thunderclap echoed across the sky. Aaron stayed with her until the storm passed. He did not move away or stand up. He simply remained by her side. Myra slowly relaxed and rested her head on his knee. Her breathing became slow again. She had never been comforted during a storm before, and this was the first time she felt safe in the middle of one. After the rain stopped, the world outside smelled fresh. The trees were wet, and small drops of water fell from the leaves. Aaron opened the window to let cool air inside. Mira walked to him and pressed her head against his leg. It was a small, silent thank you for staying beside her. As days continued, Mira began to understand Aaron better. She learned the sound of his steps and knew how he leaned on his cane. She noticed when he felt tired and walked slower near him during their yard walks. She watched his face when he read books by the window. She even stayed beside him at night, sleeping near his bed. One evening, Aaron sat by the fireplace reading a simple book. The flame made the room warm and soft. Myra lay near his feet with her eyes half closed. Suddenly, Aaron dropped his reading glasses. His leg hurt when he tried to bend down to pick them up. Before he could reach for them, Myra stood, picked the glasses gently in her mouth, and placed them on his lap. Aaron looked at her with surprise and then smiled. He touched her head, grateful for her help. Mira wagged her tail proudly. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. Myra learned to trust a human again. Aaron learned to open his heart again. They both healed in quiet ways. The neighbors soon began noticing Myra. When Aaron walked along the road to fetch mail, Myra stayed close to him. She watched every car and every person with calm attention. When someone greeted Aaron, Mira stood still, observing their tone and movement. One neighbor named Rami waved from across the fence. He asked Aaron about the dog, saying she looked gentle and smart. Aaron smiled and said she was more than that. She was brave and kind. Rami nodded and said she had found the right home that night. As the moon shone through the window and Myra slept near the fireplace, Aaron looked around his house. It no longer felt empty. It felt full of life and warmth. Mira had brought something that had been missing for a long time. And although neither of them knew it yet, this was only the beginning of a story that would touch many hearts around them. Myra woke early the next morning. Sunlight touched the window, and the house felt warm. She stretched her legs and walked quietly toward Aaron's bedroom. The door was half open. Aaron was sitting on the edge of the bed, rubbing his leg. Some mornings were harder for him. Old injuries never fully healed, and the pain often returned when the weather changed. Myra walked to him and placed her head gently on his knee. Aaron smiled and touched her head. He told her he was fine, but she stayed close anyway. Her presence made the room feel brighter. Aaron stood slowly with the help of his cane and walked toward the kitchen. Myra followed him with soft steps. Breakfast became a small routine they both enjoyed. Aaron prepared tea and cooked eggs, while Myra sat near the table, wagging her tail in a slow and calm way. When Aaron placed a food bowl on the floor, she waited until he stepped back. Only then did she begin eating. She was polite in her own quiet way. After breakfast, Aaron put on his jacket and stepped outside to get fresh air. Mira walked beside him. The morning was peaceful. Birds flew across the sky, and the sound of leaves filled the yard. The world felt gentle. Myra lifted her head and took in the smells of the forest. Aaron breathed deeply and felt the same calm she felt. Later that day, Aaron decided to take Mira for a short walk into the forest trail behind his house. He held her leash loosely, allowing her to roam but still stay near him. Mira was excited. She had seen the forest from a distance, but now she could explore it up close. She sniffed tree roots, followed the path, and listened to the quiet sound of flowing water from a small stream. Aaron walked slowly, enjoying the peaceful surroundings. Sometimes he paused to rest his leg, and Myra stopped with him every time. She stayed still until he was ready to continue. Aaron appreciated her awareness. She seemed to sense his needs better than any person. They walked until they reached a small wooden bench by the stream. Aaron sat down and placed his cane beside him. Mira sat at his feet and watched the water move between stones. The sun reflected on the stream, creating small sparkles. Aaron felt peace wash through him. Myra lifted her head and looked at his face. Something in his expression made her tail move with soft happiness. On their way back home, something happened that surprised both of them. Aaron slipped on a patch of wet leaves. His cane slid forward, and he lost his balance. He fell to one knee and tried to steady himself, but the pain in his leg shot through him. Mira immediately reacted. She barked loudly, her voice sharp with concern. Aaron tried to get up, but he struggled. Myra pressed her body against his side, giving him support. Her steady weight allowed him to push himself up slowly. Aaron took a few deep breaths and rubbed his leg. Myra stayed close, watching his face carefully. She seemed worried, as if she feared he might fall again. Aaron placed a hand on her back and whispered that he was all right. Mira did not leave his side for the rest of the walk. She walked so close that their steps became one slow, careful rhythm. When they reached the house, a neighbor named Rami saw them. He walked toward the fence and asked what happened. Aaron explained that he slipped but was fine thanks to Mira. Rami looked at Mira with surprise. He knew dogs were loyal, but the way Myra reacted was remarkable. He said Mira seemed like a guardian. Aaron smiled and said she was more than that. She was a partner. The next day, Aaron's leg felt stiff, so he rested more inside the house. Mira stayed with him the entire time. She lay on the rug near his chair while he read a book. Sometimes she looked up to check on him. Sometimes she placed a paw on his foot gently. Aaron felt comfort in those small gestures. In the afternoon, Aaron received a letter from the Veterans Center. The letter invited him to a community gathering planned for the end of the month. He had not attended any event in years. Crowds made him tense, and loud sounds made him uneasy. He usually stayed away from such gatherings, but as he held the letter, he looked at Myra resting beside him. Myra opened her eyes and met his gaze. She tilted her head as if asking what he was thinking. Aaron smiled at her. He felt braver with her around. The thought of walking into a crowd did not feel as heavy as before. Myra would be with him. She made the world easier. Aaron decided he would go. He placed the letter on the table and told Myra they would attend together. Myra wagged her tail, not understanding the words but feeling the positive tone in the following days. Aaron practiced walking longer distances. He wanted to be ready for the event. Myra joined him during every practice. She walked with patience, never pulling the leash or rushing ahead. She looked back at him often, checking his steps. Aaron thought she looked almost like a trained helper, even though he had never taught her any special commands. One afternoon, Aaron dropped a small wooden box while arranging tools in his shed. It fell to the floor and slid away from him. Aaron bent down but felt pain in his back. Before he could reach for the box, Myra trotted over, picked it up gently in her mouth, and placed it in his hand. Aaron stared at her with amazement. She had done it with such calm care that it felt natural to her. Her actions made Aaron think deeply. Myra was not simply following him. She was watching him, learning his habits, and responding to his needs without being asked. He felt something warm fill his heart. He wondered how many people had overlooked this gentle dog at the auction. They saw a weak, scared animal. But Aaron now saw a heart full of intelligence and kindness. That as the day of the community gathering approached, Aaron felt nervous. The memory of crowded spaces still bothered him. Myra sensed his tension. On the morning of the event, she stayed close while he prepared. Aaron brushed her coat gently. She stood still, enjoying the soft attention. Her fur shone under the morning light, and her eyes looked calm and ready. When Aaron stepped outside with his cane, Myra walked beside him. They headed toward the town center. People were gathering there from early morning. When Aaron arrived, a few neighbors recognized him and waved. Myra stayed close, watching everything with alert but calm eyes. As they entered the crowd, Aaron felt a small wave of unease. The sound of people talking grew louder. Children ran around. Someone dropped a metal cup, and the noise echoed sharply. Aaron tensed for a moment, but Myra stepped closer and pressed her body against his leg. The steady contact grounded him. He took a deep breath. People noticed Myra immediately. Some pointed at her, smiling. They spoke softly so as not to frighten her. Aaron felt more at ease with every passing moment. Whenever the crowd moved, Myra adjusted her steps. She guided Aaron without pulling him, always aware of his balance. During the event, an announcer spoke through a microphone. The sudden loud sound made Aaron's heart race, and he flinched. Myra looked up at him and leaned against him again. Her calm presence eased the tension in his chest. People around them saw this moment. They whispered about how connected Aaron and Myra seemed. Some said Myra behaved like a trained service dog. Others said she was a miracle. Aaron only smiled. Myra was simply herself, and that was enough. By the end of the gathering, Aaron felt tired but proud. He had come a long way from the man who stayed alone in silence. Myra had helped him step back into the world as they walked home under the soft evening sky. Myra trotted beside him with a gentle grace. Aaron looked at her and whispered that she had changed his life. Myra raised her head and brushed her side against his leg once more. Neither of them knew what challenges or surprises would come next, but they walked forward together with steady trust. The next morning brought a soft light over the small farm. The sun rose behind the hills and filled the fields with a calm golden glow. Tom woke up early as usual, but today he felt a different kind of energy inside him. Max had slept beside his bed again, curled up in the same corner as if he had lived there all his life. Tom sat up slowly and looked at Max. The dog opened his eyes as soon as Tom moved, like he had been waiting for him to wake. Max wagged his tail once, then twice, and Tom felt a calm warmth spread through him. It had been many years since any creature looked at him with such trust. Tom stood up and stretched. Max stood too. They walked out of the bedroom together, their steps matching like they were already a team. When Tom opened the door to the yard, Max ran out and breathed in the fresh morning air. For the first time, he looked like a dog who belonged somewhere. Tom made a small breakfast and gave Max a bowl of water and food. Max ate with soft movements, as if he respected every space Tom gave him. After eating, Max went to sit near the window and began watching the trees sway with the wind. Tom watched him quietly. He could tell Max was slowly accepting this new life. Later in the day, Tom had to go to town for supplies. He stood near his truck and looked at Max. The dog stood a few steps away with anxious eyes. Tom walked toward him and placed a hand on his head. Max leaned into his touch. "Come with me," Tom said gently. Max jumped into the truck without hesitation. His trust was growing stronger every day. As they drove through the small roads, Max kept his head up, ears twitching, eyes moving from side to side. He seemed curious. Tom noticed it and smiled a little. Only a few weeks ago, Max had looked scared of every sound. Now he was becoming brave again. They reached the supply store. People who knew Tom greeted him with a smile. Many of them saw Max for the first time. Some walked closer and asked about him. Max stayed beside Tom and did not hide, though he kept his tail lowered in a calm way. A young woman named Mira came forward. "Is he your dog now?" she asked softly. Tom nodded. "Yes, he is." Mira smiled warmly. "He's beautiful. He seems gentle." Tom looked down at Max. "He is gentle. He just needed a chance." Mira crouched and held out her hand for Max to sniff. Max looked up at Tom first, like asking permission. Tom nodded. Max then walked slowly toward Mira and sniffed her fingers. She stroked his head with care. "He's special," she said. Tom agreed with a simple nod. He knew there was something special about Max, something deep that went beyond what most people would see at first look when they returned home. Tom noticed Max had become even more relaxed. He walked through the farm with steady steps, exploring new corners with confidence. He sniffed the fence, checked the barn door, and even followed a butterfly for a few seconds before losing it in the tall grass. Tom watched him from the porch. Seeing Max grow like this made his own chest feel lighter than it had in years. It was as if the dog was healing him too. Later that afternoon, Tom decided to test a new step. He wanted to see how Max reacted to a bit of open space. He walked toward the barn and opened the large gate that led to a field that stretched quite far. The field was safe, closed off by natural barriers. It was the perfect place to let a dog run freely without danger. Max followed him with slow steps. His ears twitched as if he sensed something different was about to happen. Tom looked at him and gave a small nod. "Go ahead," he said with a calm voice. Max hesitated at first. He stepped forward, then backward. He looked up at Tom again, searching his face. When Tom remained steady, Max stepped into the field. He sniffed the ground and looked around. For a long moment, he simply stood still, taking in the space. Then something inside him changed. His tail rose a little. His body became less stiff. He took a few quick steps. Then he took more, and then he ran. It was not a wild or desperate run. It was a run of freedom, a run of joy, a run that showed a part of him waking up that had slept for too long. Tom watched in silence. His eyes followed Max as the dog ran in wide circles around the field. The wind brushed Max's ears back. His paws moved with a natural rhythm. He looked alive in every sense. After a few minutes, Max slowed down and returned to Tom. He stood in front of him, breathing fast but with bright eyes. Tom knelt and placed both hands gently on the sides of Max's face. "You're free here," Tom whispered. Max closed his eyes for a moment, as if he understood every word. That evening, after a long, peaceful day, Tom worked on a few repairs around the farm. Max stayed close, following him like a shadow. Whenever Tom bent down to fix something, Max would lie beside him with his head resting on his paws. Whenever Tom stood up to move, Max stood up to. It felt natural, like they had been living together for years. As sunset painted the sky with shades of orange, Tom sat on a wooden chair outside. Max lay beside him. Birds flew across the horizon, heading toward their nests for the night. For the first time in a long time, Tom felt like he belonged somewhere too. As they sat together, a truck drove up the road toward the farm. Tom noticed the dust rising behind it. Max lifted his head and watched with interest but did not grow tense. When the truck stopped near the fence, a man stepped out. Tom recognized him. His name was Paul, someone who attended auctions often. He walked toward Tom with an unreadable expression. "I heard you bought that dog," Paul said. "The one no one wanted." Tom nodded. "Yes, his name is Max." Paul looked around the farm, then at Max. "I need to talk to you about him." Tom felt Max move closer to his leg. He placed a hand on the dog's head to reassure him. "What is this about?" Tom asked. Paul shifted his weight. "It's about where that dog came from and why he was in that condition." Tom felt the air grow heavier. Max stayed pressed against his leg, as if he sensed something important. Paul took a deep breath. "You need to know the truth," he said, "because this is bigger than what you think." Tom's heart tightened, but he kept his voice steady. "Tell me," he said. Max stayed close, as if ready to face whatever came next with him. The truth Paul was about to reveal would change everything. It would explain Max's fear, his scars, and why he had been rejected, and it would pull Tom into something he never expected to face again. The air around the farm felt heavy as Paul stood there, his hands deep in his pockets and his eyes fixed on the ground. Tom waited quietly, one hand resting on Max's head. Max stayed close, alert but calm, trusting Tom completely. Paul finally lifted his eyes and spoke. Max was not just any dog, he began. He belonged to a training group outside town. They worked with dogs for special tasks, but something went wrong there. Tom listened closely. Max's ears twitched slightly, as if he felt the weight behind the words. "They pushed the dogs too hard," Paul said. "Some dogs could handle it. Max could not. Instead of helping him learn slowly, they judged him. They said he was not strong enough, not fast enough, not good enough." Tom's chest tightened. He looked down at Max. The dog looked back with gentle eyes. Not understanding the words but sensing the emotion in the air, Paul continued. "They planned to send him away without care. That is how he ended up at the auction. They wanted to get rid of him. They thought he had no value." Tom's jaw clenched for a moment. He took a slow breath before speaking. "He has value," Tom said. "He is a good soul. Max pressed his head gently against Tom's leg, as if confirming the statement. Paul nodded. I know I saw it when you took him home that day. People at the auction whispered that you wasted your money, but when I saw Max follow you with trust, I knew they were wrong. Tom kept his hand on Max as he asked, so why come now? What changed? Paul hesitated, then pointed toward the road. Some of the people who trained Max came back to town. They are looking for the dogs they sent away. I heard them talking earlier today. They plan to take Max back. Max stiffened, his tail lowered. He moved closer to Tom in a protective way. Tom stood up slowly. They are not taking him. Paul held up a hand. I came here to warn you, not to fight you. But I want you to understand, they think he belongs to them. They think they still have a claim. Tom's eyes stayed calm but firm. Max belongs here. He belongs with me. At that moment, the sound of another vehicle echoed through the quiet fields. Both men turned their heads. A dark truck approached, moving with purpose. Max let out a soft sound, not aggressive, but alert. Tom stepped forward, placing himself between Max and the incoming truck. As it stopped near the fence, two men stepped out. Tom recognized their rigid posture. These were the type of men who followed strict rules, men who saw animals as tools rather than living beings. One of them called out in a loud voice, "We are here for the dog." Tom did not move. "He is mine now." The man shook his head. "He was part of our program. He was taken without permission." Paul stepped closer. "That is not true. He was sent to the auction. Anyone could take him." The second man looked at Paul with irritation. "He was not performing well. We wanted him relocated, not discarded." Tom's voice stayed calm but strong. "You placed him in conditions that broke his trust. You did not care for him. He is safe here. That is why he is staying." The men exchanged glances. They clearly did not expect resistance. Max stepped beside Tom, close but steady. He looked at the men not with fear, but with an understanding that Tom was his protector. The first man frowned. "We need him back. He is registered under our group." Tom shook his head. "He is registered to me now. Legally, I paid for him. I have the papers inside." Paul nodded. "He is right. I saw the papers signed." The men grew frustrated. One of them stepped forward, but Tom did not move. Max stayed close, his body low but his eyes focused. The man hesitated at the sight of Max's calm but firm stance. He looked at Tom again. "He will fail without proper training," the man said sharply. Tom pointed toward the field. "Look at him. He is healing here. He is learning here. He is happy here. That is more important than any training program." The men did not respond. They looked at Max, then at Tom, then back at the truck as if unsure what to do. Finally, the second man sighed. "This is not over," Tom answered. "It is over for Max. He stays with me." The men walked back to their truck, still unhappy but realizing they could not do anything without breaking the law. They drove away, the dust rising behind them. Max watched the truck disappear. When it was completely gone, he relaxed and looked up at Tom with soft, grateful eyes. Tom knelt and wrapped his arms gently around Max's neck. "You are safe," Tom whispered. "No one will take you away." Max leaned into him, trusting him with his whole heart. Paul stepped forward and let out a breath he had been holding. "I guess that settles it." Tom gave a small nod. "Thank you for telling me." Paul smiled slightly. "You did right by him. A dog like Max needs a real home, not a program." Paul left a few minutes later, leaving Tom and Max alone in the quiet evening. Tom walked back toward the porch with Max beside him. He sat down on the wooden chair again, and Max rested at his feet. The sky turned warm with shades of orange. The wind moved softly through the grass. For a moment, everything felt at peace. Tom looked down at Max. "You know, you helped me too," he said softly. "I was lost when I brought you home. You gave me a reason to wake up with purpose again." Max lifted his head and placed it gently on Tom's knee. Tom smiled warmly. "We saved each other." As the stars slowly appeared in the sky, Max stayed by Tom's side. The farm felt different now, filled with a bond that no one could break. The two of them had faced something difficult together, and Max was no longer the rejected dog from the auction. He was a loved companion, a trusted friend, and a symbol of strength, and Tom was no longer alone. With Max beside him, he felt whole again. Their journey had started with pain, but it ended with hope. Together they stepped into a life filled with calm days, warm sunsets, and a bond built on trust. Tom and Max stayed on that porch until the last light faded, and the stars shined bright over the quiet fields, marking the beginning of their new life.